Good morning, everyone from Sydney office. My name is Samuel. Let me introduce our guest speaker in NABIL MOURAD. He's a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional and a college professor of computer application in Toronto, Canada. He also delivers corporate training at client side or remotely to anywhere in the world. Nabil earned the Microsoft Specialist Master in 6th version of Microsoft Office and had been Microsoft Certificate Trainer since 2008. He keep up with the latest in the field and share the knowledge with others. His his passion to teaching and let him create YouTube channel Office Instructor, which became popular among Excel lovers across the globe. He also managed a trendy Facebook page and a blog site. Today, he gonna present to us enhanced data visualization with firm control.
Greetings everyone. I'm thrilled to participate in the Excel Virtually Global event for the fourth consecutive time. It's an excellent opportunity to both expand my knowledge and share insights with fellow Excel enthusiasts. Allow me to introduce myself. I go by the name NABIL MOURAD. I'm not only an Excel admirer, but also honored to be recognized as a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. My home base is in Toronto, Canada, where I own and operate the Office Instructor Training Center. We specialize in delivering top-notch corporate training in Canada and across the globe. In addition to my training center, I hold the position of a computer applications professor at 2 colleges here in Toronto. Furthermore, I have authored several textbooks centered around Excel, which can be found on Amazon. I'm also quite active on various social media platforms, including my blog site, officeinstructor.com, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/officeinstructor, and also on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Data visualization is a fundamental task within Excel, whether it's for reports or dashboards. During my presentation this year, I'll delve into the exciting realm of enhancing your visualizations with form controls, such as option buttons, check boxes, combo boxes, scroll bars, and spin buttons. This often involves employing advanced functions and crafting preparation tables, resulting in impressive and highly interactive outcomes. Let's explore some real-world examples together. In this example, I have a list in columns A, B, C, which shows a region, a manager, and sales. I have so many records, and I would like to visualize my data. I created a chart that is controlled by option buttons, so I can select the region, and when I select any region, the chart updates, and automatically I see the sales by manager for the selected region. If I select a different region, the West region, then here I have a different number of columns. It looks like some managers do not have sales in this region. I go to the north, I have 6 columns. If I go to the south, then I have 5 columns. This functionality can be very useful as part of a dashboard. So let's create this project from scratch. I have the same list in this worksheet. I start by selecting the entire list, Control A. And then I want to use the top row for naming each column. I can go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon and select Create from Selection. Alternatively, I can use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-F3. The Create Name from Selection dialog box opens, and I take the check away from left column. I leave top row checked, and I hit OK. Now if I click on the down arrow and let's say I select Manager, automatically it is selected because Excel recognizes the range by its name. The next thing I want to do is to create the option buttons. To create the option buttons, I go to the Developer tab, and then I click on the down arrow for Insert, and I select Option button under Form Control. When I click on Option button, the mouse pointer changes to a crosshair. I click somewhere in the worksheet and I would have created my first option button. I want to change the text and type the name of a region. Then I right click, I select edit text, and here I delete the current text and I type East. I can resize the control. And now I want to copy this control 4 times and edit the text once for each region. I press Control and drag. And now for each one of the controls, I have to press Control and click, and then I right click and I select Edit Text. The second one will be West, the next one will be North, and the fourth one will be South. After editing the names for the different controls, I can select any one of them. I press Control and click, and I want to change the property and link the controls to cell H1. I click on Properties on the Developer tab, and in the Format Control dialog box, I put my blinking cursor in the cell link. I want the cell reference to be preceded by the worksheet name. Then I'm going to click on another worksheet and then click again on the Start Worksheet so that I can see the sheet name followed by an exclamation mark. And there I select the cell H1. I hit OK, and now I see number 4. That's because South region is selected. But if I deselect, I select East, I get 1, West, I get 2, North, I get 3, South, I get 4. The controls are connected to each other, and all of them are linked to cell H1 because I created one and I copied it multiple times. Now I need to improve the appearance, adjust the horizontal spacing between the different controls, and make them look like one unit. To do that, I click on the first one while pressing Control. I keep pressing Control, click on the second, the third, and the fourth. I go to the Shape Format tab, and then I want to adjust the alignment and the horizontal spacing. I click on the down arrow for alignment. I distribute horizontally. I click on the down spacing, and I want to center, although they were already centered, because when I drag, I press Shift to ensure that they stay aligned. Now I want to group the controls and create a shape. To group the controls on the Format tab, I click on Group, and then I have all the controls as one group. Now I'm going to add a shape. I click on the Insert tab, I click on Shape, and I select a rounded rectangle. I'm going to click and drag to create a rounded rectangle, and I want to change the color. I'll make it white. I want to add an effect, so I click on the down arrow for Shape Effect, Shadow, and I select Inner Shadow. I want to send the rectangle to the back. Then I click on the Shape Format, Send Backward, Send to Back. When I press Control and click, I'm unable to select the entire group. Then I'm going to open the selection pane. The shortcut is Alt F10. And from the selection pane, I select Group 1, which consists of 4 controls. And then I press Control and click on Rectangle. What do you want to do? I go to Shape Format. I want to align them. I click on the down arrow for Align. And I want to align Center. And I want to align Middle. Now I want to group them. I click on Group and then Group. I have the controls grouped together and I can drag them, I can move them. I finished creating the option buttons. In order to create a visualization that shows the sales by manager for the selected region from the option buttons, I need to create a preparation table. And to create this preparation table, I'll be using a let function. I select cell E1. I want to expand my formula bar, Control Shift U to expand the formula bar, and I click and I start typing an equal sign and the let function. The let function allows me to create variables and use them in one final calculation. I will name my first variable A, and then I type a comma, and this one will be storing the labels manager and sales in cell B1 and C1. I type a comma, and then I hit Alt Enter to move to the next line. My second variable, and I'll name it B, I type a comma. This variable will look at cell H1, and accordingly, it will return the name of the region. If H1 shows number 1, that means the East region. If it shows 2, that means the West region, and so on. I can either use a switch function to do that, or I can be using a choose function. So if I type choose, the choose function requires a number, and this number comes from H1. Depending upon the number, it will be selecting one of the following options. I will type the names of the 4 regions in the same order as they appear on the option buttons, and each region will be in double quotation: East, West, North, and South. I then type a comma, Alt Enter to move to the next line. My next variable, and I'll name it C, this one will be extracting a unique list of managers, and I'll be using a unique function to do that. And because I named the range manager, I can simply type manager and select it from the IntelliSense list. This argument will return a problem, and we'll come back and fix it, but I want to show you the problem first. I type a comma, Alt Enter, and my next variable will be creating the sum of sales for each manager based upon the selected region from the option buttons. That's a SUMIFS function. I type SUMIFS and then I hit Tab. What would you like to sum? I want to sum the sales. I type letter S and I select the name of the range sales. I then type a comma. I have 2 conditions. The first condition is in the manager column. Then I type manager and I select the name from the IntelliSense list. And then I type a comma. What's your condition in the manager column? Whatever comes from the variable C, the unique list of managers. Then I type C, comma. My second condition is in the region. Then I use the name of the range region. I hit Tab and then comma. What's your specific condition for the region? My specific condition will be whatever returned by the choose function. Then I type B and I close the bracket. I type a comma and then I hit Alt Enter to move to the next line. And here I want to build the structure of my preparation table. I will be putting the list of managers, the variable C, side by side with the sum of sales, the variable D. That's an HStack function. I type HStack and then I hit Tab. What would you like to stack? C, comma D. This will put the names and sales side by side, but on top of them, I want the labels, the column headers. That's the variable A, and to put it on top, then I need a VStack function. Before the HStack, I type VStack, and then I hit Tab. I want the variable A, comma, and the HStack function. I close the bracket for the VStack, and I close the bracket for the let function. When I hit Enter, I would have created my preparation table. I can go ahead and create my chart. Here is the problem. We don't have sales in the South region for Daniel. If I select East, then I have sales for everyone in the East region. What about the West region? Well, Amanda and George do not have sales in this region, and that will create a problem in my chart. I'll come back and solve this problem by modifying the C variable in my let function, but I can go ahead and create my chart. Before creating the chart, I need to prepare by creating the dynamic title. In cell H2, I'll be typing an equal sign, and in double quotation, I type sales by manager for, and a space, and I close the double quotation. I want the name of the region. Then I type an AND symbol, Shift 7 on your keyboard, and to get the name of the region, I will be using a switch function. The switch function will look at cell H1, and if H1 is returning number 1, the switch will return East. If H1 is returning 2, the switch function will return West, and so on. Then I type switch, and then I hit Tab. I look at cell H1, and then I type a comma. If H1 equals 1, return East. If it's equal to, return West. If it equals 3, return North. If it is 4, return South. So this will read sales by manager for the East region or the West region. I want the word region following this function. Then I type another joining operator, Shift 7, and in double quotation, I type space, region, and I close the double quotation. When I hit Enter, I would have created a dynamic label. To create my chart, I'll be creating a column chart. I use the shortcut Alt F1. A chart is created, and I want to improve its appearance. I will delete the horizontal grid lines. I select them and then hit delete. I will delete the vertical axis. I delete it. And I want to reduce the gap between the different columns. I select one column and then I hit the shortcut Control 1. The Format Data Series pane opens. I'm going to drag to the left to reduce the gap. I also want to change the color so that each column will be in a different color dynamically. I click on the fill and line icon, expand fill, and check the box for vary color by point. I also want to add a shadow. It's a nice effect. I click on effects and then I expand shadow. From the presets, I'll be selecting an inner shadow and that looks nice. I want to bring some data labels because I deleted the vertical axis. I click on the plus sign. I check the box for data labels and I have them here. I select one of them and on the home tab, I can apply some basic formatting. I can bump up the font. I can bold it and that's fine. For the chart title, I select the chart title and to make it dynamic, I hit F2 equal sign and I click on cell H2. When I hit enter, I get the chart title that is dynamic. I can also format it if I want. I will make it black in color. The final thing I want to do is to add an outer border. I select the chart area. I click on the Format tab, Shape Outline. I select a black color and I want to make it thicker. So let's make it 3 point. And when I click outside, I would have added a chart border. My chart is ready, but before moving it to its final position, I want to test. If I select east, then I get 6 columns. If I select west, I get 4 columns and some gaps. If I select north, I get 6 columns. If I select south, then I get 5 columns and a gap. How do I fix this issue? There are different ways of fixing this issue, but I'm going to use the simplest technique by modifying my let function. I go to the let function in cell E1, and instead of getting a unique list of manager, I'm going to filter this list to the selected region. The selected region is controlled by the option buttons, and we select the region by the choose function, the variable B. Then I click before manager for the variable C and I type a filter function. I open bracket and I want to filter the manager in a way that I only include the managers in the region returned by the option buttons and the choose function. Then I type comma and I type region if it is equal B. I close the bracket for the filter function and now let's test. When I hit enter, the problem is fixed and the chart adjusts automatically to the managers having sales in this specific region. Let's test one more time. Here is the east, 6 columns. Here is the west, only 4, and everything looks nice. Before positioning my chart back, I'm going to select H2. I change the color to white so that I hide the text, and I want to move the chart in a way that I cover my preparation table. I move the chart on top of the preparation table. You might want to move the chart in another worksheet where you will be creating your dashboard. And I finished creating my project. In this example, I have a list which shows a month, a region, and then the percentage of client satisfaction, the profit percent, and the reordering level. To visualize this data on a chart, I created an interactive chart that shows the reordering level on an area chart, the satisfaction level percent as a column chart, and the profit percent as a line chart. I can show or hide any metrics by using checkbox. So if I uncheck the profit, the line chart is gone. If I check it, I bring it back. If I uncheck the reordering level, the area chart disappears. I can bring it back by checking, and the same for the level of satisfaction. I uncheck it and I bring it back. All these values on the chart are for the north region, but I have a drop list and I can switch to the east region. I can switch to the west region, and of course I can show or hide any one of the charts by using checkboxes. Let's build this project from ground up. In the start worksheet, I have the same list, and I start by naming my columns. I select the entire list, Control A, and then I hit the shortcut Control Shift F3, the create names from selection. I uncheck left column, I leave top row, and then I hit OK, and I would have named the different columns. I need to create a preparation table. I already typed the column headers, and I have a list of month. I type the label region, and I have a drop list that shows the different regions. I start by creating the different checkboxes. I go to the Developer tab. I click on the down arrow for Insert, and from here I'm going to select a checkbox. I create the first checkbox, and I'm going to change the label for the checkbox. I right-click, Edit Text, and this one will be for the satisfaction. I can copy the checkbox and edit the text. Then I click on this checkbox while pressing Ctrl, and then while pressing Ctrl and drag to create a second version, and I drag one more time to create a third version. For the second one, I press Ctrl and then right-click and edit text. This will be profit. And for the next one, I will edit the text to reordering. I select the three checkboxes by pressing Ctrl and click on each one of them. I want to left align them, then I go to Shape Format, and then I click on the down arrow for Align, and I want to align left. Then I want to adjust the vertical spacing, so I click on Distribute Vertical. Then I want to group them all, then I click on the down arrow for Group, and I group them. I created the three checkboxes. Now I want to link them to corresponding cells. I click on the first one while pressing Ctrl, and I click on the Developer tab, and I click on Properties. For the Property dialog box, I want to link the first one, the satisfaction, to cell I1, and I hit OK. And then I deselect, I press Ctrl, click on the second one, and then I click on Properties, and I want to link the second one to cell J1. I hit OK, and for the last one, reordering, I press Ctrl and click, and then in the Properties dialog box, I link it to cell K1. I hit OK, and now I created the three checkboxes and linked them to cells. When I check a box, then I see in the corresponding cell true. When I check another one, I see it true. If I uncheck it, I get a false. I'll be basing my functionality on two things. I want to extract the satisfaction for each month for the North region, the region selected from the drop list, if in cell I1 I have it true. And the same for the profit and the same for the reordering. Then I'm going to create an if function that looks at cell I1. If it's a true, then it extracts the satisfaction level for each month for the North region. And to do that, I start by creating an if function equal if, and then I hit tab. If cell I1, and I lock it to the row by hitting F4 twice, I then type a comma. I want to filter. I want to extract the satisfaction level. Then I type filter, and then I hit tab. Where is the range you want to filter? Well, for this column, I need the satisfaction. For the next one, I need the profit. And for the last one, I need the reordering. So I use an XLOOKUP function to do that. I type XLOOKUP, and I hit tab. I look at the label in I2, and I lock it to the row by hitting F4 twice. I then type a comma. What's your lookup array? I look for whatever I have in I2 in the labels in the source data from D1 to F1, and I lock it, F4. I then type a comma. What's your return array? My return array will be these three columns. I hit Shift Control down arrow and then F4 to lock it and jump back. I close the bracket for the XLOOKUP function. and then I type a comma. That's the second argument of the filter function. What would you like to include? I have two conditions, a condition in the month and a condition in the region. Then each condition will be included in brackets. I open bracket, and for the first condition, it's the month. I named it month. If it is equal to the month in column H, and I lock it to the column by hitting F4 three times, 1, 2, 3. I close the bracket and I multiply by the second condition. I open bracket. The second condition is in the region and I named it region. I hit tab to select region and I type an equal sign. If it is equal to whatever comes from the drop list, the drop list is in N3, and I lock N3 by hitting F4. I close the bracket for the second condition and I close the bracket for the filter function. I'm back to my if function. I type a comma. What if row number 1 is showing a false, which means the checkbox is unchecked? Then in this case, I want NA. Then I type NA, opening, closing bracket, and I close the bracket for my if function. I hit enter, and I get the satisfaction rate for January for the North region. I can copy for the other month, and I can copy for other metrics for the profit and reordering, and I finished creating my preparation table. Now I can start creating my chart. I select the column headers, the row headers, and the values. I hit Alt F1, and I would have created my chart. I need to improve the appearance by removing the horizontal grid lines. I can also create a dynamic chart title. For the dynamic chart title, I typed an equal sign. In double quotes, I type metrics by month for the, and I close the double quotation. I select the region from cell N3, and then I join it to the text region, preceded by a space in double quotation. When I hit enter, that will be my dynamic label. I select the chart title, I hit F2 equal sign, and then I click on cell N5. When I hit enter, I get the dynamic chart title. I want to change the series chart type, so I click on one of the columns, I right click and I select change series chart type. For the profit, I want to change it to a line chart, and for the reordering, I'll change it to an area chart. I hit OK and I get my chart. I can work on improving the appearance by reducing the gap for the column, changing the fill color of the area chart, and making any improvements you like, and I'll be dragging the chart title to the left. After formatting my chart, I'm going to move it and cover the preparation table. So I drag it, I reposition it, and I'm going to make it bigger in a moment. But for now, I want to select the checkboxes. They are grouped together. I want to move them on top of my chart. I can change the stacking order by going to Shape Format and then select Bring Forward, Bring to Front. Now I can see them on top of the chart. For the chart title in cell N5, I don't want to see it. Then I'm going to change the color to white. I select the chart and make some fine tuning to resize it and cover the data completely. I drag the checkbox to the upper right corner. I add an outer border for the chart. Then on the Format tab, Shape Outline, and I select 3-point. Now I can test the functionality. If I select a different region from the drop list, let it be the West, everything works fine. If I select the East, then everything works fine. If I don't want to see the reordering area chart, I take the check away and it's gone. I can bring it back. I can hide the profit, the line chart. I can bring it back. I can also show or hide the satisfaction level, the column chart. And I finished creating my project. It's an interactive project by using checkboxes. In this example, I have a list which shows a date, a region, a manager, a customer, cost of goods sold, and sales. I would like to visualize my data in a way that I can see the sales by region, by manager, by customer, by month. So I use the functionality of a combo box to do that so that I can switch charts in the least amount of space. Here is my finished project. It could be a part of a bigger dashboard. I have a combo box from which I select the chart I want. I want to see the sales by region. Then I have the sales by region on a column chart. If I change my selection from the combo box and I select sales by manager, now I get a different chart. If I select sales by customer, I get a chart for the sales by customer. I can switch to another visualization. I select by month and I get a line chart for the total sales by month. To create this project, I need to start preparing. So I have a preparation sheet in which I created 4 pivot tables and I already created 4 charts. So if I look at the preparation sheet, then I have a pivot table that shows the sales by region, another one that shows the sales by manager, one for the sales by month, and one for the sales by customer. And I created the corresponding charts out of the pivot tables. These are the different charts that I'll be using for switching with a combo box. But there is something special with these charts. The range upon which each chart is sitting has been named as well. So I named the first range by region, I named the second range by manager, and so on. To show you the named ranges, I'm going to hide the charts, so I open the selection pane, Alt F10, and I want to hide all. Now I can show you the ranges. I'm just coloring them in blue just to recognize them. It's not a requirement, but if I go to the name box and I see sales by customer, then I have this range, sales by customer. If I select sales by region, let's say this range is named sales by region. Each one of the charts is sitting on a named range. To name a range, that's easy. I just select the range that I want to name. I go to the name box and I type the name, I hit enter. This is how we name a range. But the key functionality is to name the range upon which each chart is sitting using a unique name. Now let's bring the charts. I click on Show All and I close the selection pane and I want to start creating the functionality. I will create a combo box in the demo worksheet and the combo box will allow me to select one of these 4 names. So I go to the demo worksheet. I listed the names in column N so that I can use them in my combo box. I go to the Developer tab, I click on the down arrow for Insert, and I select from the top row Combo Box. I click and drag to position my combo box, and then I want to set some properties. I click on Properties. In the Format Control dialog box for the input range, I select the 4 names and I have them here in column N. And then I want to link the combo box to cell G1. Then I put my blinking cursor in the cell link box and I click on cell G1 and then I hit OK. Let me test my combo box. If I click on the down arrow, I select by region, it returns 1. If I select by manager, it returns 2. And that's fine. My next step will be creating a defined name. This defined name will look at the number returned by the combo box and it will return the name of the range. In other terms, the choose function will do the exact opposite of the combo box. We created a chart. The chart sits on a named range. We used all the names in creating a combo box. The combo box allows me to select a name and it returns a number in cell G1. The choose function will take the number and it will return the name. My next step is to create a defined name in which I use a choose function. The choose function will look at the number returned by the combo box and accordingly it will return one of these names. To do that, I go to the Formulas tab of the ribbon. I click on Define Name. I want to give it a name, My Charts. And in the Refers To box, I'll be creating a choose function. equal choose. I open bracket. The choose function will look at cell G1, the number returned by the combo box, and then if this number is 1, it returns by region. If this number is 2, it returns by manager. If this number is 3, it returns by customer. If it's 4, it returns by month. Then I'm going to type the 4 names in the same sequence, separated by commas. I hit OK, and I would have created a defined name. Now let's understand the general concept of the project. I created a set of charts from the pivot tables. Each chart is sitting on a named range. And then I used all the names in creating a combo box. When I select an item from the combo box, it returns a number. And then I created a choose function in a defined name. The choose function takes the number and returns the name. Now I create a linked picture. This linked picture will be using the defined name. So when I change my selection from the combo box, I get the corresponding chart. I select any cell, and on the Home tab, I click on Copy, and then I want to paste as a linked picture. I click on the down arrow for the paste command, and I select the rightmost option in the last row. This is a linked picture. I can move it wherever I want. I can resize it. It's floating on top of the grid. If you look at the formula bar, what if I change the cell reference and I type the defined name, my charts? So if I type my charts, when I hit enter, all the magic happens. Here is my chart by manager. Let's test by switching from the combo box. If I select by region, I get a different chart. If I select by customer, I get the sales by customer chart. If I select by month, I get the sales by month. I go back to by region. Now in preparation for finalizing my project, I want to hide all this data. Then I select this column and I want the font to be white. And I select the number in column G and I want it to be white as well. And I finished creating my project. In this worksheet, I have a list of student names and their score in different subjects. In column E, I have the total score for each student, and in column F, I have the class number. If I want to visualize this data in an easy way, so that I can compare the scores of different students, not all of them, but at least a subset of the students, 6 students at a time, I created this nice visualization and I control it with a spin button and a scroll bar. Now I can see the student scores from class number 1, and if I want to switch to another class, I click on the spin button and I get the score from class 2. I click on the spin button another time and I get the score for students in class 3. If I want to switch to different students, then I click on the scroll bar and the scroll bar shows me a different set of 6 students and their score appears on a column chart. Using scroll bar and spin button form controls creates a dynamic chart and can be useful when visualizing your data in a dashboard. Let's build this project from scratch. On the next worksheet, I have the same exact data, and for this project, I start by creating the controls. I go to the Developer tab. If you don't have the Developer tab, then you can simply right-click on any tab, select Customize the ribbon, and check the box for Developer. On the Developer tab, I go to the Controls group, and I want to insert 2 controls. I click on the down arrow for Insert Controls, and I start by inserting a spin button. I click on Spin button, I click and drag to create my spin button. And then I want to control some properties in the spin button. I click on Properties. And in the Format Control dialog box, the minimum value will be 1 and the maximum value will be 3 because the spin button will control the class number. And then I want to link it to a cell. I put my blinking cursor in the cell link. And I want the cell reference to be preceded by the worksheet name in case I cut the control and visualizations and put them on a different worksheet. I click on the demo worksheet and then I click on start to bring it here, and I'll be linking my control to cell M1. I hit OK, and now I can see 1 in cell M1 If I test the control, I can go to class 2, I can go to class 3, and so on. Let's create the scroll bar as well. I click on the down arrow for insert, and from the second row of the insert menu, I select scroll bar. I click and drag to position my scroll bar. I click on properties, and this control will have a minimum value of 1 and will have a maximum value of 12. And for the incremental value 1, and let's say for the page change, I'll make it 5. I want to link it to cell H1, then I click on cell H1 and it's preceded by the worksheet name and an exclamation mark. I hit OK and that's fine. I need to create a helper table in column J and K. So I select cell J1, and what I want to do is to extract a list of 6 students from the selected class returned by the spin button. And the list of 6 students in column J will have their corresponding total score in column K. If I use the scroll bar, then I get a different list of students and so on. So I expand my formula bar, Control Shift U, and I start creating a let function, equal let, and then I hit tab. My first variable will be storing the column headers, name and class, so I'll be giving it a name A. I type a comma, and in curly brackets, I type name, comma total, each one in double quotation. I close the curly brackets, and then I type comma, Alt-Enter to move to the next line. In the next line, I'll be filtering the source data just to one single class. So I'll be filtering the source data based upon the number returned by the spin button. This variable will be called B. I type a comma, and it consists of a filter function. I type filter, and then I hit tab. What would you like to filter? I would like to filter the entire range from A2 down to F52. I type a comma, and what's my condition? What would you like to include? I would like to include column F, so I select the entire column, Shift Control down arrow Control backspace if it is equal to the class number returned by the spin button in cell M1. I close the bracket, I type a comma, then Alt-Enter to move to the next line. My next variable will be extracting from the selected class 6 students starting from the number returned by the scroll bar. I give it a name C, I type a comma. I will use an index function to do that, so I type index and then I hit tab. What's the array from which you want to return values? I want the variable B, which is the list of students from the selected class. I type B and then I type comma. What's the row number? I want a floating row number. So I'll be using a sequence function. So I type sequence and then I hit tab. For the sequence function, I always want to return 6 rows. These will be represented by the 6 columns in the column chart. I type 6 and then I type comma. How many columns do you want? Then I skip this argument. I type another comma. What's your start number? My start number will be the value returned by the scroll bar. So I click on cell H1 and then I type a comma. I want a step of 1 and I close the bracket for the sequence function. And then I type a comma. I move to the third argument of the index. What's the column number? Which column would you like to return from the array B? Well, I want the name and the total. Then in curly brackets, I'll be typing 1, 5. I close the bracket for the index function. I type a comma and then I hit Alt-Enter. I will be in the last line of my function where I want to put things together. I want to put the header, the variable A, on top of the values returned by the index function. Then I use a vstack function and then I hit tab. For my vstack function, I want the header, the variable A, and then I want the names and scores. That's the variable C. I close the bracket for the VStack. I close the bracket for the let function, and I hit enter. I do have conditional formatting in the top row, and now I get the names of 6 students. In preparation for creating my chart, I want to create a dynamic title, so I'll be doing that in cell M2. In cell M2, I created a simple formula equals sign in double quotation student scores from class, and I grabbed the number returned by the spin button. Now let's create our chart. I select any cell in the spilled array, I hit Alt F1, and I would have created my chart. Let's improve the appearance by removing the grid lines, the vertical axis, and create the dynamic title. I select the title, I hit F2 equals sign, and I click on cell M2. Now I have a dynamic title. I also want to reduce the gap between the different columns, bring a data label, and change the color of each one of the columns by using vary color by point. I formatted my chart, I changed the color of the columns, and I reduced the gap. I formatted the horizontal axis and the chart title. I added some data labels, and now I'll be adding a border to my chart. I want the chart border to be black, and I want it thicker. And now I'm ready to test before finalizing my visualization. So if I use the spin button to select a different class, everything is changing. My title is dynamic and the entire chart is dynamic. It's returning right now student scores from class 1. If I want a different set of students, then I can use the scroll bar and I change the number returned in H1 and everything is dynamic. To finalize my chart, I'm going to select these cells. I change the font color to white. When I position my chart, I don't want to see the text coming from these cells. I want to send my chart to back. Then I click on Format. I want to send it backward so that the spin button will appear on top. And then I position my chart on top of my preparation table. I press Ctrl and select the spin button. I want to position it and resize it. Let me test one more time. The scroll bar is working and the spin button works fine. And I finished creating my project. I trust that you have discovered practical insights in this presentation that you can readily apply to your work. Let's stay connected on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Until our paths cross again in another enriching learning experience, I wish you all the best in your pursuits. NABIL MOURAD.
Okay, thank you, Nabil, for that. Again, everyone attending, we would be very happy if you would send feedback